Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing. Today I'm creating on a 10 by 10 canvas around this theme of grateful. The picture that you see there of the doors is actually a photo from Unsplash, and I will put the credits to that in the video description. These are some of the products that I'm using, some papers from Collage packs from Sean Petit, as well as a variety of stencils, and the grateful stencil there also from her shop. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and cut down that the focal image page there because it's not big enough for the canvas. And so I thought I would go ahead and use both of the papers and create a collage on the surface, making that door the focal point. So you'll see me going about that. Again, these are papers from SeanPetit.com from her collage packs, and they're absolutely beautiful. I use them over and over, if I haven't already mentioned that. And I'm applying my collage papers with Liquitex matte medium, the fluid matte medium. And I am just going to go ahead and frame this canvas again with the Sean Petit papers, and then putting the door picture in the center with all that beautiful rock. In the end, the greenery and the flowery part at the bottom of that doesn't end up showing in the final piece. But again, that's a sacrifice that's often made when moving through a mixed media project. So, and that's okay. And I don't wrap these papers around the edges as I usually do. I went ahead and applied some texture later on that is going to create some beautiful edges to the canvas. And I have learned that when I'm printing on this really thin copy paper, that it does help to apply the matte medium on the back of the paper as well as on the canvas. It seems to minimize the wrinkles, not entirely, and the wrinkles are not really a problem, but it's nice to be able to have it be smooth if you want it to be smooth. And when I print on my inkjet printer, some of that ink does run a little bit. So if you see some discoloration on the white of the canvas, that's what that is about. And then here I'm going to just tear another edge of that same paper and finish the frame around the center of the canvas. And then I'm going to apply the green door paper to the top of this. Here I'm tearing up bits. I guess I did end up going back. Even though I didn't wrap around the edges, I'm going to apply those scraps to the edges to create some interest. I forgot that I had actually done that. Still recovering from being sick and not as sharp as I could be. So I apologize for the skipping around here. I know that you know what I mean, or getting used to what I mean anyway. And then again, here's the Liquitex matte medium. It just really created a very smooth finish. I did end up pulling the left-hand corner up because I had some vertical wrinkles there that I didn't really like, and I was able to brush those out. Sometimes it's a good effect, and sometimes it's not necessarily what you want. So you do have a little bit of time to play around with that. And again, I do lose the bottom part under the door just because as I move through the process intuitively as I do, I ended up doing texture over that, and it turned out absolutely gorgeous. And here I'm just using my finger to smooth out any remaining wrinkles that I don't want to be seen. The door was just absolutely beautiful. Unsplash is a photography website where the photographers offer their work for people to use, and it is not, it's royalty free. They do ask and appreciate when the artist or the photographer is credited, but it's an awesome site. You do have to be a member on the site, but it does not cost. And here I am coming in with my makeup brush and Sean Petit stencil with the word grateful and my black Archival ink. And I'm going to be applying that tissue paper on a piece of cardboard, thin cardboard, because I wanted to be able to give it some stability. And I'm just going to cut it down to the shape that I want that sentiment to be on my piece. So and setting that aside here in a minute. I did kind of play around with cardboard. I use a piece of cardboard, corrugated cardboard, underneath that sentiment. As you're seeing me there, I'm tearing it down to size. And then I did cut out part of the video footage where I was tearing up more cardboard, and I was going to put it in the corners, as you can see there in the upper left-hand corner of the screen right now. And then I'm applying that tissue paper to a piece of cardboard. It's just thin cardboard. It's actually probably chipboard. Not really sure. And here I'm going to go ahead and start with a raw umber glaze. So that's the raw umber golden fluid acrylic and the golden glazing medium. And I'm using my Tim Holtz glass mat here, which I think I'm liking for this purpose because I can actually get it in screen and hopefully be able to have people see what I'm mixing and what colors I'm using. So we'll see how that goes. It does create some reflective surface, which I don't really like, but I'm playing around with that. So here I'm just going to give the entire piece the raw umber glaze, and that just creates kind of a distressed look to the canvas. And in this case, I definitely wanted that. I tend towards that anyway in most of my work. I just really like that antiqued and grungy look. I am applying it to the sides of the canvas also because I did apply those papers, and so that that glaze is going to catch on all the edges of those papers as well and creates a really interesting look. I do apply some other texture to the sides, and there's me giving the glaze to that the grateful word on that cardboard, just so that it's prepped and ready. And in this case, I didn't wipe back as much as I just pounced around the canvas because I wanted it to have kind of a mottled look. And I really liked that. It almost looks like leather or something. It's really cool. The colors in this piece were incredibly rich. And as usual, I did end up going darker than I intended, but it all works out in the end. So, and here I'm going to come in with my black archival ink and the Tim Holtz music note stencil. And I'm just going to be applying that in various places around the canvas, primarily on the outer edges, just to kind of create some interest. And because the theme of the piece is grateful, it's as close as I'm going to get to a seasonal Thanksgiving artwork. As I've mentioned before, seasonal art is really not my thing, but I was able to capture the heart of what I was feeling about the season and being grateful. And music is one of the things that I am extremely grateful for. Gets me through a lot of tough times, and worship music in particular, but any kind of music will do. So I really liked that I could apply this to the outer edges of the piece, and really actually liked how it looked right here. It wouldn't have really needed much else, but I did want to kind of camouflage those edges of the that center focal point. So, and here I'm coming in with Iridescent Gold Deep Fine Golden Fluid Acrylic. I know that's a mouthful. And I love this circle stencil. In the end, I did end up coming back with a lot of texture around these areas where I'm applying this. And so you'll only see it just here and there in the final piece. But again, part of the process is just creating those layers and just kind of playing with things, and it ends up being what it is, and it usually is better than expected, and or at least a happy surprise. So, and I forgot to put the black archival ink with the music notes around the edges, so I did come back and do that. I don't show every side because, again, I'm working with very limited height space between my camera and my table. So, and that was TCW modeling paste, and I really like it's really fast drying and very soft. And I'm using Sean Petit's Bricks and Bubbles stencil here to create some brickwork. Trying to keep it off of the door. And as you'll see in a moment, I do end up pulling the stencil off and wiping off a little bit that got where I didn't want it. With this particular paste, it's really easy because it's super soft and fluffy, and it comes off just really easily. Some of the harder modeling paste does not. It will leave some residue, but this one didn't. So I'm just going to move around the canvas in a couple of different places and use the bricks there to kind of create some brickwork around the door. And when I started out, that really wasn't my intention. I really wanted the full door and that full photo to be part of the piece, but things go where they need to go, and so I was really pleased with it, and I hope that that you enjoy it. And I do heat set in between these layers just as a reminder, even though I don't show drying time. I heat after the glaze. I heat after applying the archival ink. And then here I decided to come in. I wanted more texture. Texture is just really fun to work with. So I've used this before. This is golden bead gel, and it creates this just beautiful, it's almost indescribable kind of texture, but you'll see some close-ups here in a little bit about what that looks like on the piece. And I'm just randomly applying it around those bricks and just in kind of those little spaces. I didn't even completely dry the modeling paste there. I figured that it wouldn't hurt if it kind of affected that. So there you can see close up, and it's just it looks like little beads of texture. And when you apply the paint on top of it, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I used this actually in my Happily Ever After tutorial that I did of the gift from my friend for her wedding. So, and here you can see it's dried. I was just testing it to make sure before I use my favorite stamp here. It's a French stamp, and I applied that all over the surface. And again, I'm trying to get it caught in that texture on the bricks as well as on the glass bead gel texture as much as I could. It didn't adhere to those areas as well as it does to the canvas and to the brickwork and the modeling paste, but I love that look. It looks so secretive to have little bits of script peeking through the texture and the paint. I really like that effect, and it's my absolute favorite stamp, so it's my go-to. In fact, I don't even know who makes it. I'd probably need to look that up and put that in the video description as well. That's a very time-consuming process to get all that information. And here you can see a close-up of the text there. And I did come in with this golden fluid acrylic in phthalo blue green shade. It is extremely intense, way more intense than I had imagined. I was really glad that I brought the blue in, but it was a little almost wasteful here because there was so much paint and it was so vibrant that I couldn't leave it on the canvas. It was just way overpowering, and I wanted it to have a hint of blue but not be completely blue. And so you'll see me applying more kind of opposite of what I was just saying, but I do end up sopping that up and wiping it back and just leaving some traces of the blue. And I do this every step that I do on the top of the canvas, I'm also doing on the edges, because again, I want the canvas and the edges to be similar in texture. I really like how it flows over onto the sides of the canvas as well. It's particularly beautiful when you're working with a gallery depth canvas, but even one of these, it still is really an added beauty on the final piece. And I am going to come in here now with another glaze, but I believe this is the raw umber glaze again. I thought maybe I had changed to the burnt umber light. I apologize for the delay here. I thought I had cut this out, but I'm already midway through the voiceover, so I'm not going to start over. So I do another glaze because I really want to take down that blue a little bit and knock it back and create some more brown, some more of that raw umber in the little crevices in that texture, and it worked really well. this is just kind of the going back and forth on the piece between the different mediums is really just part of the mixed media process. And the surface is generally very forgiving when you're working with mixed media. As long as you're letting everything dry, you have a lot of opportunity to come in again and fix things and tweak things. So that's what I'm doing there. I did come in with a little bit more of the blue because I wanted more showing than what was left after I did the raw umber glaze. But again, not overpowering. It's just kind of a hint. And when you see the close-ups, you'll see that the places that it shows up are just absolutely gorgeous. And here I'm going to go ahead and cut out my sentiment Grateful out of that chipboard. And again, that's just really thin cardboard. I wanted it just to have more stability than it had on a piece of cardstock. So, and there I'm just applying a little bit of that glaze, the raw umber glaze, just to give it a little bit of color, and also that phthalo blue-green shade of the fluid acrylic. And I do come in with some green, Arteza mid-green, a little bit later here in the process, and I apply it both to the sentiment and the canvas. It looks like I didn't realize I did another glaze. Yesterday was a bit of a blur, but it looks like I'm doing another glaze, probably because I wanted a little bit more of that brown to be able to settle into all the little crevices and stuff on the piece. So it's kind of hard to describe as Sean puts it, the dance that you do when you're creating a piece, because it really is a dance going back and forth between the mediums and the colors and all that. So, and here I'm just applying that raw umber glaze to the corrugated cardboard that I tore, and then a bit of that blue. And again, that's the phthalo blue-green shade, golden fluid acrylic, incredibly rich color. Wow, I was really shocked by how bright it was. So, but in the end, it was gorgeous. And then I'm going to come in. I'm not quite satisfied with what that's looking like. And so I'm going to come in with the iridescent gold, deep, fine, the golden fluid acrylic. That's that bottle flashing on the screen. And just applying it, using my finger to kind of skip across the surface. And it leaves just hints of the gold. There is a lot of gold in this piece, which is, I like shiny and I like gold and silver, but this was really different. But when I looked at it, I kind of stepped away and I came back and looked at the piece. And every time I look at it, I like it a little bit more. So kind of going where your gut tells you to go usually works out really well. And here I'm applying that iridescent gold also to all of the texture on this canvas. Is just absolutely beautiful how it brings out the texture of the bricks from the Bricks and Bubble stencil, as well as the glass bead gel texture. And this is the Arteza mid-green paint that I was talking about. And I don't bring a lot of that in to the texture because I didn't want it to overpower. I wanted it to have a really good balance in color between the hints of blue, the raw umber, and just the texture itself and the gold. So I'm applying it here, just kind of here and there. I do apply some more gold here in a moment because I had too much green, and it was just a way to kind of take it back down to a better level, just so that there were hints of the green, as you can see there, where my finger is hitting the surface. It was a really good addition because it actually is the exact color of the door, and the door looks really distressed. And I love doors. I love old doors and old windows. They are very symbolic to me. And usually when I create with them, it's usually really beautiful. And here's a close-up. There's the glass bead gel texture that you see, those little spots, and then the bricks from the Bricks and Bubble stencil and that fluffy modeling paste, and just taking you on a tour of the beautiful texture on this canvas is just striking. And now I'm applying some of that mid-green to my my corrugated cardboard there on the edges and then also on the surface. And then also on the edges of that, of the word there, grateful. And it really was nice because it really was a balance of color, I felt. And I really liked the effect. And I'm going to go ahead and glue these down with heavy gel. Oh, it looks like I had to go back and apply some of that mid-green on my edges. I forgot about that, so sorry. I was dealing with some background noise here with the TV going on in the living room, so I'm hoping that I can do a little bit of music in the background to get rid of some of the gravelly sound. And here is the Liquitex Heavy Gel, and this is great adhesive when you're wanting to apply something that's a little bit thicker, and it's really works really well, and it gives you a little bit of time to reposition your whatever you're trying to adhere. And there I'm just wiping away some of the adhesive that's seeping underneath that cardboard. And I do also use it to attach the cardboard to the canvas. And I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you'll check out my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, I would love to have you on my channel so that I can you can know about future videos. And of course, never any pressure, but it's always nice to have the support, and it helps me to be more visible on YouTube. And I want to be able to share inspiration, which is my entire goal in doing this. So I hope that you'll come back, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. It was an amazing project to do, and I'm super excited about how it turned out. So I hope you have a great holiday, happy Thanksgiving, and see you next time. Bye-bye.